So these people are now under threat of literally being out on the street because of the way this system is built. On top of that, they got infestations of rats and roaches. So they've already had to deal with that. But now they have to deal with being out on the street. And these are the people that we talk about when it comes to building up our communities and helping and doing mutual aid. What if I told you that over the last 3 years, the homelessness rate in a particular city has rose over 150%? This is not hyperbole. This is not conjecture. This is literal. The city of Orlando has actually had a over 150% increase in homelessness from 2022 to 2025. And it is not slowing down at all. So let's get into this because this is extreme. And people are going, well, how is this happening? And we know the answers how it's happening, but we're going to get deeper and we're going to discuss this. All right. So let me share this. So this is here. This is Central Florida Public Media. I want to share this. It says homeless count 40% of Orlando Metro's unhoused people are children and seniors. Right. This came out in April. So I want to go to this. And let me enlarge so you guys can see this. Okay. So it says overall, 2,781 people were found living in shelters, inside their cars, or outdoors on a single night, including 1,090 who were living unsheltered. Although these numbers are on par with last year's, the agency reported unsheltered homelessness is still 156% higher than it was in 2022. 156% higher than 3 years ago. If you told me that the homelessness rate in Orlando was going to jump 25-30%, I would be like, that's ridiculously high. If you told me 50 to 75%, I would be like, damn, what in the world is going on? 156% increase in 3 years? That's intentional. That is displacement. That is moral depravity on the part of the parasite class. And it is harming all of us. All of us. And so I think it's important that we get into this because so many people, and people wonder why is crime going up? Well, because there is a relationship between poverty and crime, right? As we noticed, like what happened with Donald Trump employing the U.S. National Guard to Washington, D.C., and taking over D.C. Metro Police, at least temporarily, and hyper-focusing on the homeless. Well, poverty has a very close link to crime. So let's share this really quick. Let me just read just a couple of lines out of this and then we'll continue on. And it says the relationship between poverty and crime. Okay, so it says very often poverty creates conditions that increase Predispositions towards crime. Some significant parameters of this relationship can be viewed in the following sections. It says economic desperation. Society's poorest may be under much economic stress, which might push them towards crime as a survival option. When basic needs such as food, shelter, and health are not available, individuals may commit theft, drug trafficking, and other crimes just to get by and feed their relatives. It says insufficient educational employment opportunities. There are usually lower educational levels and less access to higher job opportunities associated with poverty. This poverty, with a lack of education and jobs, can easily lead to an individual into what is known as self-perpetuating cycle of poverty and crime. In the absence of any other viable economic alternative, they take up crime as their means of livelihood. I'm going to say something, and some people are going to look at me weird for this, but it is what it is. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it right now. And I want you all, everybody who is within earshot of me, to hear me clearly. Drug dealers are hard workers. What? Yes. They have to be on it for hours at a time, running up and down the street, having to make sure that they don't get caught by the police, having to make sure, and this is not by no means me endorsing or, anything like, saying that people should become drug dealers. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is that is also a career that is extremely demanding. On top of it, you can get fired at any time. You can be punished at any time. And you're not subject to the forces of the state where they could discipline or hold accountable your boss. Because that's the way it is. But at the same time, most of them are not living high on the hog. They're just trying to get by. They may splurge on a few things once or twice, but it's not like crazy. That whole view of oh my God, they're drug dealers and they're splurging. No. You're not the low level guys, not even the mid level guys. It's the people at the top. So they also turn to having to do illegal means in order to be able to survive. But it doesn't mean that they're not hardworking, right? It's crazy. It's just what they're doing is not legal. And the problem is a lot of times people talk about, well, they shouldn't be doing this. And it's like, okay, well, if you can get a big lump sum of cash in one night versus having to work 2 weeks in order to get a paycheck, which doesn't cover what you need to cover, yes, it is the more legal route and it's the safer route, but does it really save you from losing your home because you don't have your rent in time? Or does it save you from being hungry because you can't get food? You know what I mean? People will do things in order to survive, and they will do a lot worse things because the system is built this way. And it's a vicious feedback loop, because then they do these things, they get caught by the police, then the police arrest them, they put them in jail, they put them in prison, and then guess what? They become slaves to the system, thus having to make products and services for these big corporations, because these big corporations actually employ the private prison industry in order for them to be able to pay cheaper. So therefore, now these people who are doing illegal things, well, now they become chattel slaves under the system, because chattel slavery is still legal within our country. It's just as an exception, when somebody is duly convicted. Go ahead and look at the 13th Amendment. I'll wait. So the problem is that it's the system where poverty is a huge influence when it comes to crime. If you were to lower the poverty, then there would be a lowering of crime at a commensurate rate. Would it completely get rid of crime? No, because Rich people commit crimes too. The problem is that they're not committing crimes out of desperation. And so if you have people who are less desperate, then guess what? They're going to be less likely to turn to what crime? And then the opportunities are not there as much. Plus, also, and anybody can tell you this, especially people who work in, when it comes to people like Sabby who work in higher ed, or I have friends who have worked in HR. Guess what? When it comes to looking for jobs, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And a lot of people who are in more economically displaced areas, we don't know people at these larger firms and institutions that make a lot of money. So therefore, guess what? Even if we had the skills, when we apply for those jobs, they're not going to take us because we don't know somebody on the inside. And so this is part of the problem. And so I wanted to share that because a lot of times people will say, well, these people just need to pull themselves by their bootstraps. But the thing is, they ain't got no boots to begin with. And by the way, the pulling yourself up by your bootstraps was actually a joke originally, because it is impossible for you to take your shoelaces and then lift your entire body off the ground by your shoelaces, right? It's impossible. Therefore, to pull yourself up by your bootstraps is actually seen as an impossible task to do, because humans by very nature are a communal species, and therefore we need to depend on who? Each other, in order to be able to do such a thing. This is why individualism doesn't work, because no human has ever survived through individualism. They have always survived through collective action. Even billionaires are not self-made, because it took taxes and it took workers to create those roads in order for them to be able to use those roads to get to their business to business. It took them paying workers in order to be able to build those businesses, even though they didn't pay them a living wage. What did it take? It took public schools, right, in order to be able to pay for the education that they got if they went to public school. It took the hospitals that are paid for through our tax dollars, or that are subsidized by our tax dollars, in order to be able to, for them to be born. No human has ever existed on this planet without collective action. It does not happen. Humanity does not exist in a vacuum. So I want to share another story. Well, not story, but I want to share what the results of housing or housing insecurity is doing to increase the homeless rate. And so this is a story that came out of Orlando. So let me share this right quick. When I saw this, I was like, yo, this is wicked. You see. So now this isn't one family or two family. This is dozens of families. Let's get into this. This is out of Orlando.
Are on the brink of homelessness tonight after police knocked on their door and told them to get out. They'd been staying at the Howard Johnson Hotel on I Drive. Channel 9's Nick Papantonis witnessed the evictions, and Nick, most of the people had lived there for a few months.
Yeah, and as of tonight, they will have a few more days to get out. It was supposed to be a few hours ago when we were here, but they put these new signs on the doors, giving everyone till Monday because so many people would have ended up on the streets.
left here. No management, no nothing. Nothing.
Until Wednesday, Melanie Hall worked as a housekeeper at the Howard Johnson on International Drive. Now she's one of 72 families trying to find another home. Police going door to door, telling people they had to be out by 6 p.m. The eviction a day after residents paid their rent in cash. Travis.
72 families. 72 families. Not people, families. That's hundreds of people. 72 families told to get out. And you paid your rent already? What? Now you see why we're talking about the homeless rate is skyrocketing in Florida. It's skyrocketing everywhere. And let me tell you something. Technically, those people were still homeless even before this happened, because most people, they don't opt to live in a rundown hotel or a motel, right? You know why they have to live in a hotel? Because these hotels don't do credit checks. Because sometimes they're a little bit cheaper than renting an apartment. But you're literally living in one room. You're not living in some multiple room apartment with a living room, separate bedrooms, a full kitchen. No. These aren't these types of places. These are one room where you have a family of 3, 4, 5 that are living in one room with 2 beds. So these are people who are homeless, but they're still technically housed. But because for a lot of these people, they couldn't gather up, the security deposit and the first month's rent, in order to be able to get a place, or they could gather up the security deposit and the first month's rent, but they couldn't pass a credit check. So now they have to live in a motel or a hotel. And so this is what happens because of our housing policies and our housing situation in this country. And now you're being told to get up and get out a day after you paid your rent. And this Howard Johnson, I know exactly what this is. This is literally on International Drive. I forgot. I don't think it's called the Sheraton Hotel anymore. It used to be called the Sheraton Hotel Studio City, but they changed the name. I forgot what it's called now. But if you were to take Kirkman, it's right at the crossroad of Kirkman Road and International Drive. If you take Kirkman Road, right, going west, you will run into Universal Orlando. Right? You go about 15 minutes down I-Drive, you'll wind up right where? SeaWorld. That's how close this is. Right? That's how close this is. And this Howard Johnson, which is right near Fun Spot, is closed now. And all these families, where are they going to go? 72 families. Where are they going to go? Are they out on the street now? I hope not, but that's likely where they have to go. Let's continue.
Ryan said he, his wife, and their dogs had no other option, and the cash register with his rent disappeared when management took off.
Electricity problems, Wi-Fi problems, rats, roaches. It was pretty much everything in there. We're going to go back to being homeless, and the city of Orlando basically frowns on that. So we may end up in jail eventually.
We're all in the dark. Everybody's running crazy over there, trying to figure out where they're going, how they're going to get there, and all that stuff.
The parade of U-Hauls slowing after city staff arrived. We watched them tell tenants they struck a deal with OUC to keep the power on until Monday morning, giving the families a few extra days to find their footing. They said,
so tomorrow morning, that's when OUC turns off the electric. Tomorrow morning. By the way, do you know how hot it is outside right now? It's cloudy right now. Let me check temperature. It's 84 right now. That's with constant cloud cover. Like, it is a cloudy day right now. If those clouds weren't there, oh, we'd be in the mid 90s. With a heat index probably closer to over 100. And this cloud cover is really thanks to Hurricane Aaron. So these people are now under threat of literally being out on the street because of the way this system is built. On top of that, they got infestations of rats and roaches. So they've already had to deal with that. But now they have to deal with being out on the street. And these are the people that we talk about when it comes to building up our communities and helping and doing mutual aid.
They said nonprofit groups will be on site Thursday morning to try to get them assistance.
She got 6 kids. Bro, we all need help, bro. You know what I'm saying? They giving us the Monday. Monday is not enough, bro.
And you can see that notice on the now locked lobby door. 10 o'clock Monday is when the power gets cut off. We do not know how many families remain here tonight. We understand it's a small number of that original 72. Live in Orange County.
This is who is being affected the most. And no doubt, these people who were being evicted from this hotel, most likely, they all worked in that area of International Drive. Some of them probably worked at Universal. Some of them probably worked at the litany of hotels that are up and down, including maybe the Rosen Hotel. They probably worked at the Holiday Inns. They probably worked at the Ramadas, right? Maybe a Marriott. They probably worked there. They might have worked at many of the restaurants, maybe the Chili's over there, maybe the IHOP down the street. Maybe some of them worked at the Fun Spot. Maybe some of them worked at Aquatica. Maybe some of them worked at SeaWorld. All you have to do is take number 8 bus and boom, you're there. But the problem is that this is the type of situation that these people are living in. And never mind their kids. Their kids. School started back in Orange County on August 11th. So now these kids, they don't have stability. So where are they going to go? Are they going to go to, further east to the in-town suites on OBT? Is that where they're going to go? Are they going to go to some other extended stay place? Even though their prices are going to be higher and families can barely afford food? By the way, that Howard Johnson, there is no regular grocery store that's close by within walking distance that I can think of. No. There's a Publix. You literally have to pass Universal Orlando down Kirkman to get to the Publix. And then there's a Publix on iDrive. Yeah, there's no nearby grocery store, meaning they're also living in that hotel, and it's technically a food desert because the closest grocery store is actually a Is it a Walgreens or CVS? Right there on Universal Boulevard and International Drive. Besides that, it's just gas stations, convenience stores. There's a 7-Eleven, there's a Circle K. I think that's it. Like, I know that area because I used to work at Universal Orlando. So this is how bad it is right now. And do you know how much it costs to move? Those U-Hauls ain't cheap because, yeah, they say $19.99 for that van rental, but you also have to put a down payment as well, which means that you're gonna have to put another like $99 on it. So it's about $120. And then on top of that, they add money for gas usage. And that odometer or the fuel, they rig it so that it seems more empty than what it is. So then they charge you more for gas. So then what are these people going to do? And then if they wind up on the streets, then you're ready to not you, but some people are ready to blame them for being out on the street, even though they're doing what they can to survive. Like I said, 156% increase in homelessness in 3 years. 156%. It's skyrocketing here. Part of that's due to gentrification, because a lot of these areas, they are exploding. By the way, not too far from them, down the street on the other side, going east, Universal Orlando just opened up Epic Universe. So that's a huge amount of money that's been spent in that area, which also is going to make the prices of everything go up. The rent's too damn high, people. It's too damn high. So let me share this as well, because higher rents lead to homelessness. Let's take a look at this.
To multiply in our area, many people really becoming homeless for the first time this year.
Yeah, and tonight, ABC Action News reporter Wendy Lane meeting a local veteran who says in his darkest hour, the Salvation Army helped keep him off the streets.
Michael Levy has seen a lot, especially while serving as an Army Ranger during the Gulf War.
If I made it through that, I feel like there's really nothing that could stop me.
The strength and courage he earned on the battlefield has kept him going, even after he became paralyzed from a fall 3 years ago, and more recently was diagnosed with terminal illnesses.
I have end-stage COPD and emphysema and cancer, yes. Doctors told me there's really nothing more we could do for you. They said live every day like it's your last, and that's what I'm trying to do.
But Levy was tested yet again when the housing crisis hit this year. His rent went up and he could no longer afford it.
Never in a million years would I think that this would happen to me.
Levy found himself homeless, but thankfully he has not had to live on the streets. Since September, he's been staying at the Salvation Army in Tampa, which has special rooms for veterans that
So this goes to show that the rising rents are part and parcel of why so many people are going homeless. Especially if you have not kept up pay with the rate of inflation, people are going to go homeless. People are going to end up out on the street. The crazy part is we literally live in a country where so many people say that they support the troops, and yet the people who are veterans end up out on the street because they can't afford rent. Why are they paying rent if they sacrifice their lives or they put their lives in danger for the country. By the way, I'm not playing the rest of this because this is basically going to be praising the Salvation Army, which the Salvation Army, excuse me, is just is part of the nonprofit industrial complex that actually thrives on people being unhoused, so that then people continue to donate to them. And the people at the top of the Salvation Army, the people who are really the directors and people at the top, they're making hand over fist. They're making a whole lot of money, while the people at the bottom aren't making a damn thing. And really, they say that they're doing good for people by housing the homeless, but at the same time, most of that money actually goes towards the people at the top anyway. It's the same thing with Goodwill. This is why I don't like those type of foundations. The nonprofit industrial complex depends on people becoming homeless so they can continue to make money. It's very vicious. It's very vicious. This is why we don't do we don't do charity. We do mutual aid. But the point is that rising rents are causing more homelessness year over year. Now, I want to give a shout out to Roger Meadows for this one because, of course, we're talking about the Out of Reach program from the National Low Income Housing Coalition. I want to share this because it's happening everywhere. And you guys know, like, this is getting bad. So this is a 2025 National Low Income Housing Coalition, Out of Reach. And so let's take a look at Florida because this is my state. Last year was number 10. It was the 10th most expensive state. It went up. It's now the 9th most expensive state in the country. A red state in the South is the 9th most expensive state out of 50. You need to make $37.27 an hour required to afford a 2-bedroom rental home. Or you have to work 115 hours a week, needed at the minimum wage to afford a 2-bedroom rental. Right now, what is the minimum wage here in Florida? The minimum wage here in Florida, as of right now, for the next 7 days. So for the next 7 days, it is $13 an hour. On September 1st, it goes up to $14 an hour. You need to work 115 hours a week in order to be able to afford an apartment. That's how bad it is. This should not be. I'm going to show you guys also this as well, because if you want to go a little bit deeper, we definitely can. But let me share this with you guys too. And thank you very much to Roger for this. And so here's Florida. Of course, it says you have to make $37.27 an hour, right? Now, where are the most expensive areas in the state of Florida? Let's take a look here. Most expensive areas are Fort Lauderdale, Miami Beach, Kendall, Monroe County, West Palm Beach, and Tampa. So in Fort Lauderdale, you need to make $45.92 an hour. $45.92 an hour in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Fort Lauderdale. The 5th most expensive is Tampa, St. Pete. Now, I am going to say this. Last year, Orlando was in the top 5. Tampa beat Orlando. I bet you Orlando's number 6 now. Tampa beat Orlando. But make no mistake, Orlando's definitely within the top 10. Certainly. And so because we have to make this much in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment, do you think the people in that Howard Johnson are making that much? No. No. And so because of this, then guess what? People are going to get homeless, are going to become homeless because they can't afford the rent. The rent's too damn high. There's gentrification that's happening. Gentrification all over. There's gentrification happening in downtown Orlando. Gentrification happening near the Millennium Mall. A lot of black and brown neighborhoods, they're gentrifying the hell out of us. We were just talking about the prior segment. Here's New York. New York's number 3. You need to make $46.03 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in New York. Right? So let's go into that. So let's go to New York. Okay. So in New York, some of the most expensive areas are New York City, Westchester County, Nassau, Suffolk, Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, and Middleton, and in Kingston. So in New York City, you have to make $53.46 an hour in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. So that gentleman that we were talking about, Fillmore Brown, right? If he can't get his house back, guess what? He needs to make $53.46 an hour. This man needs to make 6 figures a year in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. You need to make 6 figures a year in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. 6 figures. You need to make over $100,000 to afford a 2-bedroom. And you wonder why people are becoming homeless? People wonder why? Let me see something. Let's go to DC, Washington, D.C., right? You have to make $44.50 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Washington, D.C. And yet Donald Trump is saying, oh, well, we got to get these homeless people out of here. Well, the rent's too damn high. Look, $44.50 an hour. It's number 5. It's more expensive in D.C. than it is in Florida. It's crazy. Why is it so expensive? Well, look at who's buying up all the homes. Look at the gentrification happening. Let's go to a red state. Another one. Let's go to Texas. Texas, you need to make $29.64 an hour, right? Some people may think, oh, that's not that bad. But their minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. You have to work 164 hours a week in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Who can work 164 hours a week? The most expensive areas are Austin, Round Rock, Dallas, Martin County, Midland, and Kendall. So you need to make $37.48 an hour in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Austin. And so people talk about, oh my God, the homelessness rate is going up. What's wrong? People automatically want to think, oh, well, it's just people just being irresponsible. They don't know how to spend. And here's one more thing I need to say. I need to speak on this. No amount of financial literacy classes is actually going to solve this, because in order to be able to have financial literacy, you have to have what? Finances. You got to have finances in order to be able to do financial literacy. But if you don't have the money, then what can you do? Also, it's kind of hard to do it when wages have been stagnant. Here's a fact. The minimum wage has not been raised since 2009. And it wasn't even Obama that signed the increase to raise the minimum wage. It was actually done by George W. Bush. It was just under Barack Obama where it actually went into effect. So it wasn't even a Democrat. It wasn't even a Democrat who pushed for it. Yeah, he signed it. Yeah, it became law. But then in 2012, or hell, he could have tried to push for a minimum wage increase in 2015, right before he left office. But did he? No. Especially when there was an election going on, everybody was talking about $15 an hour. But no, it didn't happen. So now we're seeing the effects of the ineffectiveness of the Democratic Party. And we're also seeing the cruelty of the Republican Party, because the Democrats work in tandem with the Republicans. And we're seeing homelessness skyrocket right now. And this isn't an individual issue where people just need to spend more wisely. No, it is systemic. It's systemic. Because why in the hell would you see 156% increase in homelessness in only 3 years? 3 years. That's systemic, baby. That's not an individual problem. Nobody just wakes up and goes, well, I think I'm going to be homeless today. Take the poll, please. I want people to see what's going on, right? And so I find it awful that we continue to live in this system. And then we sit here and go, well, what do we do? Look, RBN has been telling y'all what to do. We've been giving recommendations of what is the best course of action. And look, it is tough out there. It's tough for all of us. But can you set aside time? Can you? To do something for your neighbor? And we're not asking you to save the world. We're asking you just to help improve it just a little bit for one person. If 100 people do just a little bit for somebody else, then guess what? That's a huge amount. But it starts with you and it starts with me. And that help means doing what we have been recommending: mutual aid, building dual power, so that we can get out of this system, because we can only get out together. We cannot depend on these two parties. We cannot depend on this system, because it's not going to do it. It's going to happen even more as it's going to get worse. And I'm going to share this as well as one of my last points, because I think this is also an important piece. Make sure I get it. why Blackstone is quietly buying up American homes and what it means for the rest of us. Let's take a look at this. This came out earlier this year. In a housing market where supply is tight and rents keep climbing, one of the biggest buyers isn't a local landlord. It's Blackstone, a global investment giant with more than $1 trillion under management. It says the firm has quietly built one of the largest rental housing portfolios in the country, spanning hundreds of thousands of apartments and single-family homes. Supporters say its deep pockets can improve properties and create new housing. Critics worry it's another sign that Wall Street is tightening its grip on where Americans live and how much they pay. It says real estate is a core division for Blackstone. According to CNBC, the firm has an ownership interest in at least 274,000 rental housing units, likely making it one of the largest landlords in the country. Its portfolio includes apartments, single-family homes, mobile home parks, and student housing, with concentrations in Sun Belt states such as Texas, Florida, and Georgia. The company didn't always focus on residential rentals. After the 2008 financial crisis, Blackstone became one of the largest owners of single-family homes through Invitation Homes, later selling that business. In 2021, it re-entered the market, acquiring Home Partners of America and Tricon Residential in 2024, adding tens of thousands of properties. Today, its single-family portfolio stands at about 58,000 homes. It says Blackstone executives say their investments follow job and population growth. It says the firm often renovates properties, which says it improves quality and adds supply, although upgrades can also lead to rent increases. Buying is currently cheaper than building in many U.S. markets, according to the National Association of Home Builders. Limited construction paired with rising demand is keeping rents elevated, a trend that benefits landlords but strains many tenants. So that is the big picture. We have big corporations like Blackstone, not BlackRock. BlackRock and Blackstone are two different companies, but Blackstone that is buying up these homes, which is also adding to the increase in rents, which is adding to the increase in homelessness, which is why it is skyrocketing across this nation. And this is why private equity should be banned from owning homes, as well as anything in healthcare, including hospitals. Private equity should be banned from these areas because that also pushes the homeless epidemic. It's horrible. And now we're becoming a nation of renters. But the thing is, we can barely afford to rent now. So this is why we talk about doing mutual aid and building dual power. So we can stop these leeches, these parasites from consuming us and everything around us. So constantly, whenever you drive by one of those hotels or motels where you know people are living their lives in, and you know they're there because they can't afford another place, if you're doing mutual aid, see if you can help out people in that area. Just think about them, because it's out here. It's hard out here in these streets. Just do what you can to leave the world better than you found it. All right, so go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you very much to everybody for tuning in for that. Let's get into, let me check to see if we have any Rumble rants, and then we will get into everything else. Okay, looks like we're good. No Rumble rants right now. Thank you very much. And then check the Rockvin chat. See if we have any chats in Rockvin. Let's see. Okie dokie. All right. So let me share this. Roger wanted me to share this. This is only 2 minutes. So he talks about Savvy making the conservative argument against property taxes, where Sagar makes the socialist argument, even though Sagar is the conservative. It's kind of interesting. Let's take a look here.
Because check this out. This is wild. I couldn't believe she said this. Marjorie Taylor Greene said, hi, we need to completely abolish property taxes. You heard that right, folks. We need to completely abolish property taxes. It forces us to pay rent to the government on property that we own. But if we don't pay property taxes, the property that we own gets taken away from us. That should never happen in a free country. Say, what? I don't know what is happening. I'm like, what is happening to Marjorie Taylor Greene? It's weird, like listening to this. And I said to myself, like, it's almost like I don't know what she watches, but it almost makes me wonder, do you guys think maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene could be watching like some of the left, like commentary shows? Because I don't think that everybody just watches like their niche, right? Like, I think like, if you're like me, I watch a little bit of everything. I don't think that everybody that's Republican only watches right-wing news. And I don't think everyone that's Democrat only watches like liberal news. And I'm starting to wonder, like, what if she's been watching like different, like, I don't know. But I agree with that. This is something that I've been complaining about for quite some time. I never agree with property taxes either. To me, I don't agree with excise tax either. Like in some states, they call it car tax. In Massachusetts, it's called excise tax. My thing is, after I paid my car off, why do I still have to pay taxes for it? The car is paid off. Why am I still paying taxes on this car? And I feel the same thing about the property taxes. Like, why do you still have to pay property taxes for a property that you own? It gets crazier. Listen to this. There's more. Secondly, health insurance is.
Okay, so I saw that live. Yeah, I agree pretty much for the most part. My thing is, like, if we have property tax, you should pay it once. You shouldn't continue to pay it. So, like, for instance, let's say you get on a 30-year mortgage, right? And your property tax is broken up and added with the mortgage. By the time you pay off that mortgage, you should not have to pay the property tax, or you should be able to pay off the property tax all at once, and you shouldn't have to pay any more property tax. That's honestly how I think. Like, no. If that were the case, then my grandmother would still have her home. She might even still be alive today. She'll be turning 91 next month. Yeah. And so, yeah, that part I agree with. The Sagar part, I think that you were referring to, I don't necessarily have time because I have to get to a meeting, Roger, and I'm sorry. But what I will do is I'll put the link in the chat for people to watch. So I'll put the link in the chat for people if they wish to watch Sagar's point. And yes, Vic says 80% of our property taxes go to fund local schools. I think that our schools should be funded through not property tax, but I think it should be funded through the state. It should not, and they all, like, for the school districts that are underserved, it should be equitable. So let's say you have a school that's in a majority, like, affluent white neighborhood, right? But then you also have a school that's in a working poor neighborhood. So the school that's affluent, I mean, if you want to continue to keep giving them how much they're giving them, but you should increase and give even greater to the one that's underserved until they reach the same level as the one that's affluent. I think you should equitably like do that. But the problem is that, you know, that would mean that you would also have to increase taxes on, I think, things like Wall Street speculation. I think you should increase taxes on huge investments like art and yachts and things like that. Go ahead. I don't care. My thing is like, you know, I say tax the billionaires out of billionaire status. Does that make me radical? You bet your ass it does. Yeah, billionaires shouldn't exist anyway. Y'all stole that money through taking away our surplus value, so therefore we're going to put the surplus value back into people. But I have to get going because I literally am going to be late for my meeting. Sorry, guys. I think we're having a meeting today. Wait, are we having a meeting today? Hang on. Let me make sure. But let's go into the super chats just to make sure. Oh, yes. Roger says DM and rock. I can't do the DM right now, but I can do the rock. Let's go into the Rockman chat. All right, so I read that. Says, bro, I gotta say I really love this debate on property taxes about who was right, but who makes the better argument. And he said, this is why I don't trust Zoran. Yeah, I don't have time to read that. I'm sorry, Roger. I don't have time. But I can share that in the chat as well. I'm sorry. And I got to read this poll, and then I have to head out. All right. Thank you very much for that. And yes, Thomas, wait, there are people who don't have to worry about being homeless at the end of the month. Yep. And I'm going to be honest with you. I believe that we all shouldn't have to worry about it. We should all never have to worry about being homeless ever again. So let's go ahead and take a look at that poll. Let me see. All right. So out of 95 votes, I have to worry about paying my rent mortgage. 65% said every month. I'm one of those 65, baby. Then you have every 3 to 6 months is 5%. Once or twice a year is 3%. And then I never have to worry about rent or mortgage is 26%. Yeah. And I'm happy for the 26%. I'm going to be real. I'm happy for y'all. I wish we all were in your shoes. Unfortunately, we're not. But hopefully one day when we change the system, we can be in the 26% shoes. Because I don't want us to ever have to worry about it.